in the month of June. Here at Petroma Therapy, we've somehow survived the weekend, and we're going to discuss Chekhov today, who I think looks a little bit like Eric Clapton, which just makes me want to say, I shot the sheriff, but I did not shoot the deputy. How are you today?
Well, thank you for this introduction. I caught myself thinking, I'm really glad to hear you. We haven't communicated for 2 days, but it seems like eternity. And yes, we've survived it. We've survived through the weekend, and every day above the ground is a blessing.
It is.
Go ahead.
Are you? Yeah, I'm just saying it is.
Yeah. I also want to say that you mentioned Eric Clapton, and I thought that Chekhov is like Eric Clapton in no way. But that's me, and I could be wrong.
No, he's so good looking.
Oh, you mean visually, his appearance? I thought he, in terms of his, short stories and stuff.
Well, I mean, he's a writer.
Yes, he was a ladies' man.
Yes, and also was very interesting to me to read a little bit about his biography, that he did not marry. He trained as a doctor, and he did some writing, and he traveled around, and he was very, he's probably like, one of the world's most famous, most renowned short story writers. And as I was reading, he only married 4 years before he died. And he married a woman who was an actress who was they were putting on a play that he had written. And they were friends for a while. And then they decided to get married. And then a couple of years later, he died of tuberculosis. So actually, I don't even think he wanted to get married, but he just needed a woman to be around when he was sick. But I mean, I don't know. What do I know? I mean, I'm a little bit biased from the woman's point of view, but no, he's very handsome, and he looks very charming. I read that he had more than 30 love affairs and also frequented brothels.
Well, when you said that he was married and then 4 years later he died, I thought, is there a connection? I'm sure.
That's what
but then you said, no, he died of tuberculosis. Okay, that's...
No, I wanted to say...
Because I thought it sounded like he died because he married 4 years before.
No, I wanted to...
I didn't know he was...
I wanted to say that, but I thought I would I would just let that come out as it came out.
Yeah.
No, I was fascinated.
That sounded funny. He was a ladies' man. 30 love affairs by modern standards isn't kind of any kind of achievement. 30.
It isn't. It isn't, or is?
No, it isn't. I mean, it's just 30, and he was 40 years old, right?
No, yeah, but plus he visited brothels.
Yeah, well, that improves things a little bit, but then define love affair. I don't know what you mean, because if you have a relationship, it lasted 2 years at least, 30 wouldn't qualify. But
no, wait a minute. No, the woman that he married, he had tuberculosis. He had recently been diagnosed with tuberculosis. And then meanwhile, they did not have any children, but, she was also a very interesting open concept kind of lady because, she was pregnant, but he wasn't around to do that because he was off someplace else. And then when he discovered that his wife was pregnant, well, then there was a little bit of mystery there. And it turned out that the baby was not actually born. It was some kind of, entopic or enscopic or some kind of weird thing. But yeah,
I
so I guess
that. I should probably read more about his biography.
Yes.
That's an interesting fact. But I love his stories. I love his stories because they're short. I mean, I don't know any other author who writes short stories the way that Chekhov did, except for Ernest Hemingway. But
Yeah,
those are,
Hemingway and
yeah,
yeah,
just
Hemingway and Flannery O'Connor, Hemingway, Chekhov, Flannery O'Connor, or like, and also Borges. Borges is like, I believe, Argentine. And
oh,
then
and
Flannery O'Connor is an American called Southern Gothic. And then
I
Hemingway.
absolutely love short stories. First of all, because they're short and you can finish one in one day. I also love all kinds of novel, which can be like this thick, but still, life stories are my life stories are short stories are my favorites. And
Yes,
each time I read his story, I think he was writing about himself. What do you think?
yes, there are many, many autobiographical elements. There are various doctors in his stories, and there the story "Lady and the Dog," where a woman has her little dog on the seashore of, I believe, Yalta. He actually, vacationed in Yalta, and there are so many autobiographical elements about and like themes that just repeat. But I also wanted to say something about his name. His first name is Anton, which I suppose I like the name Anton. I am good friends with the Anton family, and all of the Antons are the nicest people, and they are the best looking people. They are excellent examples of the species. So I want to send a shout out to David Anton and David Marshall Anton and Lindsay Anton, Jennifer Anton, and well, I think Carly's married to Patrick, but they have a little boy named Otto, and he's like the cutest little thing in the world. But Anton has a great name. I am also from San Antonio. So Anton, Anthony, those names have been very important to me in my life. Do you have any Antons that you know?
No, I was thinking that when you were listing all these nice people, you do know many Anthons. I know only one, and he's a lawyer, but we are not related. Anyway, I also wanted to say that the lady is a dog, and the dog it just sounds. But the story was called The Lady and the Little Dog. That's the exact name, the exact title. I don't know why it's important. Probably because the dog was little. The Lady and the Little Dog. Yeah, I'm sure that's how it's called. I didn't know it was written by Chekhov.
I think you've read that story.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't know until I read it 2 years ago.
Now you know.
Yeah,
And
now I do. There is first time for everything. But still, The Lady and the Dog is a very popular expression here in Russia, but I didn't know that after. That's taken over after, named after Chekhov's story.
It's an expression? What does that mean?
Well, when you see a lady with the dog, you call her Lady the Dog. I don't know how to explain this, but I'm sure you see someone's walking with a dog each morning, and you wouldn't want to call any woman with a dog Lady and the dog. I don't know how to explain that. Sometimes the words cannot be translated. It's about the Chekhov's short stories. I was going to say that you have to read it in original maybe language.
Well, we have a place here in Dallas. It's called the Dallas Truckyard Patio Bar Music Venue. So it's a nice piece of land that has a treehouse bar and an Airstream trailer, lots of picnic tables you can sit at, a bar, and it's dog friendly. So people bring their dogs there. And the reason people bring dogs to the Truckyard Patio is to meet other people. The dog is an extension of their self. So when you see people at the truckyard with their dogs, well, dogs are running up to each other, meeting and greeting each other and smelling each other and chasing each other. And then that gives the owners a chance, like, oh, your dog is so cute. Or like a woman will say, what a big dog you have. So, so I think that's kind of in the ballpark. It might not exactly be the same thing, but
I'm feeling jealous because that form of communication is not customary. I don't know how it looks how it is in where you come from, but you just unless you have a dog, of course. If you have a dog, you can approach another person and say, like you said, "Oh, but now what a nice dog you have." But I don't have
no,
a
no,
dog,
no,
so if I
no,
see
no.
somebody, I cannot approach that person and say, "Hey, be my friend," or I don't know, "Do you have a dog?" I don't. I mean, I can't ask that.
Well,
Maybe I
no,
should.
girls are very good at this because we are a little bit tricky. But like
Yes.
dog people always are so convinced that their dog is so amazing. So I could be
Yes.
going someplace and all of a sudden somebody with a huge dog is trying to talk to me or they're walking by. I go, I'm a cat person. The dog is just so nice. I go, yeah, I'm a cat person. The dogs. I don't know. David has a dog named Bingo, and Haley has some dogs, and Jennifer Anton's guy Chris has dogs, and Dallas is like a dog town. There's dogs everywhere. There's dog parks that have beautiful places where you can drink beer, and there's lakeside places where you can take your dogs. If you're in Dallas and you do not have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or someone to hang out with, you're stupid because there are places all over the place. And it's summertime. People are in yoga pants. People are wearing shorts. People are playing tennis. People are, they're just really having a lot of fun. And I wanted to mention something about a collection of Chekhov's short stories that I have. It starts with a quotation from Chekhov. The aim of fiction, in one of his letters, he says, is absolute and honest truth. Chekhov is supreme among the short story writers. He never deludes his readers with a trick ending. He prefers to get his effects by revealing new aspects of life in seemingly commonplace situations, unsuspected shades of character in ordinary individuals. So he might have a lady walking her dog. He might have a doctor making a house call. He might have some men in a hospital. He might, all these very commonplace things that we all experience. Then he reveals something about character and what it means.
Can you say that again? The first part when you started the aim of fiction is to tell the truth. Was that how it went?
Yeah, something like that. The aim of fiction is absolute and honest truth.
Oh, I like that. Also, I think there is incongruence here, but that's why I like it, because fiction cannot be truth. But
of course it is.
What?
Fiction tells the truth that prose can't. Poetry and fiction are amazing. They tell truths that the ordinary word can't.
Okay.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. I'm reading that Chekhov was born in Russia, Taganrog, Tanganrog. Well, tell us where that is. He was the son of a poverty-ridden shopkeeper and the grandson of a serf. He first took up writing to support himself while he was studying to be a doctor. He gradually abandoned.
I don't understand his phenomenon. Is that the word? Because there are so many people obsessed with Chekhov's writings. I don't understand what is so special about it. And sometimes when I talk to a person, I don't know, they seem aggressive. I mean, Chekhov's fun, however stupid that sounds. But personally,
Who's aggressive?
Well, they think you're reading it wrong. You think you don't understand the substance of the story. Everything
well, of course you don't understand.
Yeah, I understand, but they think I don't.
Well, maybe you don't. No, what I'm saying is that
I do.
Okay, well, just stop arguing with me.
Hey, no, no. I was gonna say that not to change the subject, but in terms of mastery of the Russian language, I think I came upon this Nabokov's two stories. First called I guess The Eyewitness, and the other is Luzhin's Defense, but in Russian, of course. And the mastery by Nabokov is, I mean, it's next level compared to Chekhov.
Okay, well, hang on a second.
In my
Okay.
opinion.
Well, just a second. Okay. So some of our readers are not familiar with the way we're pronouncing words, and you're pronouncing them fine, but Nabokov would be Nobokov.
Nabokov. But in Russian it sounds Nabokov.
Nabokov is famous in literary circles in the West for the novel Lolita about the
I haven't read it. I know that he was ostracized for it.
You are sounding very defensive. Just pause.
Okay.
Just wait a second. Just wait a second. Just wait a second. I want to go back
to agree. Okay.
Okay, I just want to go back to the fact that Chekhov came from a very humble background, and he had the gift of writing, and he used his life experience to transform his reality into words that other people could relate to. So the people that are passionate about Chekhov, myself being one, there is something in Chekhov's work, or his body, his opus, OPUS, his collection, that speaks to me. So I just feel like people who are passionate about Hemingway, or passionate about Nabokov, or passionate about Gabriel Garcia Marquez, that there's something in the stories or the poems that speak to them. So when you say that there's these rabid Chekhov fans, perhaps you don't realize how Chekhov struck a chord in them. And maybe you could just say, like, can you tell me more about it? Pretend that you're a therapist when the rabid Chekhov people assault you.
Yes. And would that be too rude for me to say that I kind of missed a little bit a chunk of what you have said, because someone's just called me, and when somebody's calling, the connection interrupts, and even if you don't know, you keep talking, but I cannot hear you. I don't want to be in any way impolite.
I think you did that on purpose.
No.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Let me just
recap it because I think.
First of all, I have not read Lolita. Okay.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Now, What I was going to say, and it's okay to say it, a couple times, that whether you're reading Nabokov or Hemingway or Marcel Proust or Chekhov or whomever, the people who are very fond of those stories and even become rabid fans, there's something in those stories or in those poems that spoke to them. So when other people are telling you something about, you don't understand Chekhov, and you this, you that, they're very angry because they're passionate. You cannot be angry if you are not passionate. Passion and anger are closely related. So what I was thinking is perhaps to learn more about why they're so passionate, instead of switching topics like, I like Nabokov, that will really piss them off. That makes them mad. Especially if it's a woman. Like, it's I don't know. The collection that I'm holding in my hand here was published in. It's a collection of Chekhov stories published in 1931, and the very first story is just called "A Day in the Country," and it starts with a very simple sentence. Between 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning, a dark, leaden-colored mass is creeping over the sky towards the sun. Red zigzags of lightning gleam here and there across it. There is the sound of a faraway rumbling. A warm wind frolics over the grass, bends the trees, stirs up dust. In a minute, there will be a spurt of May rain, and the real storm will begin. So it's such an engaging opening. It's just a day in the country. It's very inviting. And, I love opening sentences. Like the opening is like what I like best. I like the beginning. I like the beginning of things.
I mean, I'm not debating that. Don't be angry with me.
I am angry.
Yeah, what I was gonna say that Chekhov was a misogynist. I'm not against it. I totally support him. But some women who love Chekhov's work, they somehow missing out on this fact.
Well, that's not what's speaking to them. Maybe that's not what's speaking to them. Maybe they are remembering a love affair that they had on a seaside resort. And maybe the seaside resort was in Turkey, or maybe it was in Geneva. There's a sea there, or the lake, right? I mean, maybe maybe they're in love with is some special memory. They're not thinking about like what a womanizer Chekhov was. Like, I've read Chekhov for years, and I never knew that he had 30 love affairs or that he looked like Eric Clapton. So, I mean, I just found that out yesterday.
It's not even related.
It is all related.
Really? Have you ever heard of the expression Chekhov's gun?
I'm not going to answer that. Yes.
Chekhov's gun. Oh, you don't like guns? I forgot. Okay.
No,
have you ever?
I was just going to tell you what I found very attractive about him was that I like musicians' hands, and I like hands, and I like thighs, and I like necks. Like I like musicians and artists and writers because they use their hands. And then you tell me, have I ever thought about his gun?
No, not his gun. I mean, Chekhov's gun is a metaphor. Have you ever?
I'm talking about his body.
Yeah, I know Chekhov. I mean, I told you that he looks like a ladies' man. Absolutely. I think he had hundreds of affairs, at least, because he was very educated and even a little humble upbringing, but still he was very attractive. His appearance was extremely, I think, even by modern standards, he's great. We can only be jealous. I mean, the rest of us. The Chekhov's gun, I think that's a metaphor. I don't know. I don't get to hear it very often. But if there was a gun, because he wrote lots of plays, if I'm not mistaken. And if, for instance, there is a gun in the first act, it is imperative that it should fire in the last.
Okay, yeah. Well, I know that the time period he was writing in was also influenced by, like Russia has German, undertones, but also they were fascinated by the French and the duel, D-U-E-L, duel. A man would show his honor to defend a woman or something by dueling at sunrise with pistols. So,
or sunset.
Maybe. I don't know. So I know that there's a lot of guns, and guns are related to man's masculinity. It's his honor that has been offended. So there's like people are shooting each other quite a bit in Texas in love stories, and they're shooting each other, all over the Russian novels. And, a man doesn't like to be offended, and he doesn't like for somebody else to say something impolite about his woman or about his shoes or about his car. I mean, Dallas has road rage, like people are on their trucks driving and somebody cuts in front of them. That means you have to floor your truck, pass that guy, and like let the guy know who's the boss of the road. So, road rage and guns and dueling, all that. I mean, there's even a song there's also a song called Dueling Banjos where, it's from the movie Deliverance. The musicians are fighting each other by who can play the banjo the best. Well, back to Chekhov.
No, Pavlov's dog somehow came to mind. Like Chekhov's gun and Pavlov's dog. Wouldn't they be
Schroeder's
Nazim?
cat. Schroeder's cat.
What's that?
Schroeder's cat?
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
I don't know. Like if you
But
see,
you brought it up.
okay, well, just a second. If you see a fence, a wooden fence, like in Huckleberry Finn or Tom Sawyer, a little wooden picket fence. You're sitting on one side of it, and you see a cat walking by on the other side, and you see the nose of the cat, the ears of the cat, then there's the piece of wood, then you see the neck, then there's a piece of wood, then there's the body, and then at the end there's a tail. You will assume that that's one cat, but
Yeah.
the nose did not cause the tail. It has to do with like perception and reality. I don't know.
No, I have a cat. But I remember now. Alan Watts, I guess, he was given an example based on this Schroeder's cat. I don't know what it's called after or who it's called after, but I still don't get it. Even though I have a cat, I don't understand. If there is a hole in the wall and there is a cat going behind it and you see the head and then the torso and the tail, what's wrong with that?
Well, it's not causal. It's not causal. One doesn't cause the other. It has to do with what causes things. I mean, suppose
Causal?
you just
I mean, the head, you see the head and there's, yeah, I know what I hear you. I mean, you see the head and then you know that there will be a tail. So you mean the head doesn't cause a tail?
Oh, no, wait a minute. What if the tail has been cut off? Like there's a famous Russian little story.
It's awful what you're saying.
No, I'm just a minute. I'm saying there's a little Russian folk tale about how the rabbit got a short tail. And I think I talked about it in another episode that he used to have a long tail, but he was being lazy. And then a wolf chased him and bit off his tail. Now he has a short tail. So the idea of Schroeder's cat, I don't know, this might be something for our subscribers to comment on. Schroeder's cat, Chekhov's gun, road rage. I mean, there's
and Pavlov's dog as well.
Yeah, Pavlov's dog.
The dog.
Here's a story. It's called by Chekhov. I just flipped it open. It's called The Rothschild's Fiddle. The town was small, no better than a village. It was inhabited almost entirely by old people who died so seldom. It was positively painful. In the hospital and even in the prisons, coffins were required very seldom. In a word, the coffin business was bad. So this is a little story. I've never read it, but I'm saying, it just starts off with some very simple prose. So let's suppose I read that and I start to think about somebody that needed a coffin, or, maybe somebody went to the hospital. So what I think is, appealing to different people is there's something in Chekhov that speaks to them.
You said, you know what spoke to me? You said that in the war, the coffin business wasn't doing well or wasn't going well. And I thought exactly the opposite. Someone said that our business is death and business is going great. I don't remember who said that.
Oh, yes. Well,
for no apparent reason, I love this awful expression.
Yes. I think that undertakers, car mechanics, and lawyers will always have work to do because people are always dying, people are always suing each other, and your car's always broken. So, somebody
and
was
also robots.
Robots. Yeah, I don't know.
Because this Chekhov's book are ahead of time, way ahead of its time. Did you ever read The Cherry Orchard?
The Cherry Orchard. Yes, I've seen it I've seen it produced. It's really quite interesting, quite beautiful.
Also, Three Sisters. I guess that's another play written by Chekhov. Not that I'm a fan of it. but I've seen. Yeah, I like to see it. When I read it, I wasn't just as pleased as when I saw it on TV.
Didn't you
I
tell
don't know.
me a week or so ago that you were buzzing around and you saw that the Bolshoi Ballet was going to be doing Anna Karenina?
Yeah, in August this summer. I don't know. I am afraid to go.
Why?
Well, Anna Karenina cannot be a ballet.
Yeah, I know. I agree. They can't have guys in like speedos jumping around. Like, I see Anna Karenina.
I mean, theoretically you can, but maybe it's just me again, and I could be wrong.
No, I agree. I agree that it is a heavier work, and people are wearing coats and stuff like that. Like they could do the snow part would work, but I don't know. I just don't see Vronsky leaping across the stage, and like how are they going to do when she jumps from the train? She's just going to fall onto the floor, or maybe they're going to have a trap door. I don't know.
What just came into my mind that when Chekhov wrote his stories in 1903, for instance, I mean, there wasn't so many literate people as they are now.
There weren't so many literary people?
Yeah, literate, that they didn't know from A from Z, couldn't say from first letter of the alphabet from the last one. They couldn't write, let alone read.
In 1920, of course they could. All of Paris could read. London
in 1905?
Yes.
No, but Chekhov wasn't in Paris.
No, the turn of the century is like an intellectual apex. Like, everybody's writing and reading and going to salons and going to museums and going to parties and inviting people over. Like, in Paris, Gertrude Stein was inviting Hemingway and Fitzgerald and I don't know, probably Stravinsky came and maybe Diaghilev. Like everybody was like writing and dancing and drinking. But I mean, in huge land masses like Russia, where there's a large population of people just digging potatoes, they probably were not reading, they were digging potatoes. Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's exactly what I mean. Also, I'm not sure how many literate people lived in Russia at the time of Chekhov's. Maybe that's his phenomenon, because he was one of the few chosen.
Well, he had great connections and he was good looking. So if you have great connection, you're good looking and you're sleeping with all the right people, you can go far in this world.
Yeah, but he still died at 40 years from tuberculosis.
Yeah, but I bet he had a great time.
I'm thinking if we do you remember we had the Bloody Mary episode? So what if we have this spiritism thing, and sometimes you can call upon the spirit, and they talk to you, and you talk to them. What they use is board. I don't know, Jumanji board or what it's called.
It's called. Wait a minute, it's not Jumanji. It's Ouija. It's pronounced Ouija board. So it's
right.
The Ouija board, like the energy between two people or like two or three people is tangible. Like when you're a teenager and 2-3 people are sitting around, or when you're see a pretty girl, like there's energy there. So so I think of the Ouija board as just the vehicle that transmits the energy that's already there. And go ahead. What is it you want to do?
I want to say that would you be brave enough to have this Ouija board in front of you, and the spiritual stuff like this, and ask Chekhov, for instance, you ask Chekhov's spirit to come and visit, and okay, it is here. Yeah, what would be the question you ask him?
I feel that there's a question you want to ask him.
Yeah, I want to see if he had, I want to know before, because I want to know, I want to ask him. Was it really like 30 love affairs he had, first of all? And also, why did he visit brothels if he had 30 love affairs?
Well, because he was a country doctor, and if his girls were back in the city, he got, anxious. He just had
And
to
also,
like
I would
stop
like
by
to ask him if he really, really loved his wife. Yes.
Yeah, well, what is love? I don't really know.
Define love.
He
But you
doesn't
know
have
what is. I mean, you know what love is, but you just can't explain it, right?
I don't know. To me, love is work. That is what love is.
No. No, it's not to you. I mean, you're saying it just because you have to, for the sake of appearance.
I'm saying that to me, love is giving up things for the other person, doing things for the other person, sacrificing for the other person, and that it is not a very useful word for me. Like, I understand what lust is, I understand what attraction is, but for me, love, just because you love your children doesn't mean they're going to be nice to you. Just because you love your uncle doesn't mean he's going to loan you some money. Just because you love your dog or your cat doesn't mean he's going to not, do something awful. I mean, that's just.
I have that feeling that you and Chekhov have a lot to talk about. I mean, Chekhov's theory. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to get Father Don in. I want to get Father Don in on this.
No, that's not a religion thing, because it's exactly opposite. What if it's not Chekhov? What if it's a demon playing with you?
Well, it's a spirit. You have to, like the term, the discernment of spirits. Like Saint Ignatius of Loyola, he was a Jesuit priest, and one of his purposes was to defend the papacy, the Pope. And so, many Catholic writers have written about the discernment of spirits. How can you tell if something is from God, from the world, or from the evil one? So when something comes to you, let's suppose it's a girl on the subway, or let's suppose it's an invitation to a party, and you're trying to decide whether to go or not, classic spiritual discernment is to ask yourself, is this something from God, from the world, or from the devil? So if something's from the world, it just means it's just an invitation, I can go or not. But if there's a lot of vibration around it, you have to discern, is this something that God wants me to do, or is this something I'm being tempted by the evil one? So if I use classical discernment on getting a Ouija board, number one, I'm not going to spend money on a Ouija board when I can spend money on bourbon or ice cream or cookies.
Yeah, it's way better. But you need Chekhov.
Yeah, I have Chekhov. I'm already in love with him. I love his pictures. He's got a great face. He's had 30 love affairs. I bet he's never been with a girl from Texas.
Have you fantasized how he would have looked naked?
No, I like him with his clothes on.
You're mine. Hey, we should wrap it up because someone's keep calling me. I don't know, maybe it's work related.